For this NFL season, we are on to week 12. And for the week 12 betting slate, I have 3 picks for you guys to lock in. One thing that I love doing is looking at lines when they're first posted, either Sunday night or Monday morning, or just really all day Monday, and trying to pick off situations where one sportsbook, couple sportsbooks might be different from the rest of the lines, and you can find some value. Early line shopping is something that I love doing. So in this video, as I mentioned, I have 3 early line shopping picks for you guys. 2 of the games are going to be on Thanksgiving. One of them is just a regular old Sunday game. Now, the NFL season as a whole has gone pretty well for me. This is mostly due to an insane hot streak recently on these NFL player props. So when you look at my overall success with the NFL, yes, the majority of that has come with the player props. The mainline success just hasn't quite been there. Now, at the beginning of the year, I did this early line shopping video pretty much weekly. Since the NBA season started, haven't been able to really quite get to it. But for this week, I did find a couple lines that I liked, so I wanted to get this bad boy out. So as I mentioned, 3 picks for you guys to lock in early line shopping picks. Real quick, would appreciate it if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are not already. And let's get into these plays. So number 1, the first play that we're locking in here is Cowboys minus 10.5. This is at minus 106 odds at Sport Trade. This is a trend that has continued basically for the past 3 years. The Cowboys absolutely annihilate inferior opponents. And really, them blowing out a team like the Commanders isn't really that hard of a sell at this point. The Cowboys on the year, they're 7-3. 6 of their 7 wins have come by 20 plus points. Here are their margins of victory on the season. 40, 20, 35, 3, close game against the Chargers, 23, 32, and 23. They are insane at this point what they can do when they are playing bad teams. Again, with that 3-point win coming against the Chargers. So overall, they're 7-3. They do not have the best record in the NFL, but what they do have is the best point differential in the NFL. They're plus 127 point differential. That is tied with the Ravens for number 1. So they're number 1 in the NFC standalone, and then they're tied for number 1 in the entire NFL. But keep in mind, the Ravens have played one more game. So the Ravens are 8-3, the Cowboys are 7-3. And then their opponent, the Commanders, haven't really been able to get a really good sense of what the Commanders are. There are some games in which Howell looks phenomenal. Both games against the Eagles, he looked great. He looked really good in a game against against the Seahawks. But then he had 2 absolute clunkers against a horrible Giants team. He turned it over 4 times against the Bills earlier in the year. He's a typical young quarterback. He has high highs and he has low lows. Again, there are games like the Giants where he just looks completely lost. What we do know about Howell, despite how hit or miss he's been, is he takes a bunch of sacks and that he can turn the ball over. That is a death sentence when you play against the Cowboys, who A, have a ferocious pass rush, and B, turn the ball over a lot. They basically get a pick 6 or fumble 6 in every single game that they win. Also, the Commanders on the other side of the ball on defense, they sold 2 of their best players on defense in Chase Young and Montez Sweat. They allowed Tommy DeVito to throw a bunch of touchdown passes, I think 3 against them last week. The team is going nowhere. They are a train wreck even without Dan Snyder. So I expect the Cowboys to not allow the Commanders to score a lot. I expect the Cowboys to have a ton of success on offense, and I think this is going to be another classic Cowboys blowing out an inferior opponent. So 10.5 is a massive spread. The Cowboys have shown they can cash these kinds of large spreads. As our first play, next up, we're taking the 49ers minus 6.5, minus 115 odds at FanDuel. This one is a little bit scarier because it's a division rival and the Seahawks are actually good, unlike the Commanders, and the Seahawks are at home. But there are a lot of reasons to like this one as well. The Seahawks, unfortunately, are starting to crater. And not only that, but they're also very banged up. Now looking at the 49ers, they had a rough 3-game stretch where they lost 3 games in a row. Since then, they had a bye week, and then they've had 2 very impressive victories in a row. They've gone 2-0, obviously, in the 2 games since that 3-game losing streak, since the bye week, with a point differential of 44. They beat the Jaguars, who were on fire 2 weeks ago, 34-3. The Jaguars just could not get anything going. Last week, just yesterday, they beat the Bucs 27-13. The 49ers are also fully healthy. If you want to say the reason why they lost those 3 games was because they were missing Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams, and Brock Purdy had a concussion. So the 49ers getting completely healthy obviously has something to do with their recent success. Getting Deebo and Trent Williams back is massive for them. When you look at it, Brock Purdy has essentially had a perfect passer rating for the past 2 games combined, which is very, very impressive. And the 49ers are also similar to the Cowboys. And when they win, they just blow out their opponents. And they've even blown out some good teams, right? They've blown out the Cowboys. They've blown out the Jaguars. Unlike the Cowboys, they have beaten and blown out good teams. The 49ers have also won 7 games. And here are their margins of victory in those 7 games: 23, 7, 19, 18, 32, 31, and 13. Only once have they won by single digits, and that was by 7, so they still would have covered a 6.5-point spread. And then on the Seahawks side, at once they were leading the division. That's not the case anymore. They've lost 2 of 3, and in that stretch, they got absolutely annihilated by the Ravens, 37-3. Not only that, they're also banged up, as I mentioned. Geno Smith left the last game with an elbow injury. We'll see if he's able to gut it out. Kenneth Walker left with an oblique injury. We'll see if he's able to gut it out. They're currently listed as questionable. Regardless, I think the 49ers continue to roll in this one, cashing -6.5 for us. Last up, third and final pick for this video, Steelers -1, -105 odds at DraftKings. I thought I was missing something. The Steelers are playing the Bengals, who, mind you, are not going to have Joe Burrow. I don't get why the Steelers are only getting 1 point here. I know that they have very obvious and very clear offensive issues with their quarterback and their play calling. But the Bengals are starting Jake Browning. And even with that disgusting Steelers offense, the Steelers are still 6-4. And Jake Browning has never started an NFL game before. He came in for an injured Joe Burrow last game against the Ravens, mostly looked completely lost. Now, if you want to say that it's different when you prepare to start versus when you're thrust in the middle of the game, sure, that's fine. Still a young quarterback going up against a ferocious Steelers defense. In that game against the Ravens, Jake Browning led 1 field goal drive at the beginning of the second half, then had 3 straight 3-and-outs, and then when the game was over, he led a garbage time touchdown. The Ravens defense is very good. So is the Steelers. And we know that the Steelers defense can make life hell on young and bad quarterbacks. Games with the Steelers never look pretty, but the Steelers generally are going to be able to wreak havoc on teams that have a bad offensive line and a bad quarterback, which is exactly what we have in this game against the Bengals. Now, I get it. The eye test is going to make you want to gouge your eyes out when you watch Steelers games. But as I mentioned, they're still 6-4 with some pretty decent wins in that resume. They've beaten the Ravens, the Browns, the Rams, the Titans, the Packers. Ravens and Browns are both good. Rams, Titans, and Packers are bad to mediocre. So I'm not saying it's a murderer's row of opponents, but that is still some decent wins. And the Bengals defense is good. So this game will probably be closer than, it's probably going to be a 10-13 game, something like that. But 10-13 still cashes our Steelers -1. And I just have a hard time envisioning a scenario in which the Bengals offense is able to put up more than basically 10 points against the Steelers defense. Steelers offense is gross. I think they could get to 13 against the Bengals, cashing our third and final pick for this video. So 3 plays. Hopefully we can get back some of these losses, specifically on the main lines. If you're riding with me, make sure to comment and let me know. Other than that, remember to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.